Good afternoon. Thank you for joining me today. My name's Heidi Lutronico-Ferris, and I work for a charity called PECT based in Peterborough. We're an environmental charity, and we've been doing education in schools for the last 30 years. We're currently working in partnership with Healthy Schools, Cambridgeshire and Peterborough to deliver Food Smart, which is a food and nutrition-based activity in schools across the area. We've recently been commissioned to create some resources on food and nutrition and healthy eating for HAF to help you in your confidence and your understanding so that you can use these principles within your provision for your young people. So we're going to take you through all the resources that we've created as part of this. They're all completely free and they're all available to download from the website, which is featured on each of the presentation slides. So I'm going to switch my camera off while we are going through the presentation so that you can see what is going on. Okay. So like I say, we've created a whole range of different activities for you to be able to use in your settings. There's 9 different themes that are all linked together some way. There's no set order in which you can do these themes. You can pick and mix and match as you like, but they're all designed to give you a basic understanding which can then be built upon for you to be able to encourage children and their families in making the right choices in food. So the first theme is around eating the rainbow. So messages and activities based on 5 a day and eating different coloured foods, particularly fruit and veg. Then we've got the senses of food. So this is expanding knowledge of the Eat Well Guide and exploring through sensory tasting, a really good one for young people or children who don't like tasting new foods or maybe have sensory issues or SEND needs. Portions and Potions looks at getting the right portion size for you, not just in food, but in our drinks as well. You Are What You Eat is all about the understanding of the impact of processed foods and how that message is both true and false, but that you're in control. Grow Your Own is a slightly different session and explores how food grows and how growing your own is really important, but also looking at magic foods which can regrow from their own waste. Our lunchbox swap box session is all about healthy lunchbox alternatives, but not just the boring ones. We've got some quite new and different ideas in there as well. So number 7 is about snacks for teeth, promoting healthy snacks that are tooth friendly. You'll be surprised at what is and what isn't. Our next one is the seasons of food. So relating food to the change in seasons and how this can make food healthier. And our final session is about food for fuel. So understanding the links between food and energy and specifically physical activities. Okay, so each of our packs has its own set of resources. So you will get an activity card that will give you some background information along with the challenge for the children to take part in. And then on the back is a supporting resource to allow that challenge to take place. Then you'll have a recipe card, and in some cases you'll have more than one recipe card that's linked to the theme of the activity to engage hands-on cooking experience. So teaching kitchen skills and giving them the confidence to try new things. And then we have our home learning cook-along video. So this can be used in different ways. It could be used as an extension task for older participants to gain more knowledge about a theme. It can be used if you've got the same children coming back at different times into your sessions. If they've done the basic one, this could be the next activity along, or it can be something that you give them to take home and do with their family. So we've got a couple of different ways of engaging with there. Everything's shareable with your families and everything is completely free to be downloaded from the website. So let's have a look at the first resource, which is Eat the Rainbow. So this session will look at 5 a day principles, which have been around for some time, but research shows that only about 30% of people get their 5 a day. And when fruit and vegetables should make up around 39% of all food on our plate, that message obviously isn't getting through somehow. All fruits and vegetables count, whether they're frozen, tinned, dried or fresh. And even 150 millilitres of fruit juice can count as one of our portions per day. So the challenge with this one is that we're looking at trying different foods. So did you know that you have to try each food at least 5 times on 5 different occasions to know whether you like it or not? And the reason for that is when you taste something for the first time, it can be a shock to your taste buds. So they have to get used to it before your brain can process that like or dislike. Food doesn't always taste the same. For example, does a red grape taste the same as a green one or even a black one? So when a child says they don't like grapes, that might not be totally accurate. They just haven't tried all the different varieties. Another thing to remember is that our taste buds change as we get older. So something you might not like now, you might like when you're older, and vice versa. So it's really important that we're constantly trying and tasting new foods. So we've created this activity chart so you can monitor and track the different foods in the different colours that you've tried and tasted. They can score it between 1 and 10, but then they can come back to it. So you could do this for lots of different foods over a period of time, or the same food over a period of time, and see if their taste score changes as they go through. So the home learning activity is our food logo challenge. So these are all logos you would see on foods, but do we know what foods and do we know what they mean? So that's something they can do at home, or if you've got the packaging at your HAF provision, you can get that packaging out to engage your children with. And so the cook along activity is about creating rainbow fruit salads and rainbow salads. And so you're using a variety of different cooking skills here to be able to get across those different methods that you're using. So session 2 is all about the senses of food. So when it comes to eating food, and in particular trying new foods, we don't always give them a chance. A lot of young people will say they don't like foods which they have never tasted or eaten before. So according to scientists, around 75 to 95% of what we taste is actually tasting with our nose through smell. And we base most of our decisions of what we will or won't eat on what food looks like. The way we taste food, maybe not how you thought either. Did you know that there are different parts of your tongue and that these parts all taste different flavours? And yet anything meaty or herbal, fruity, smoky, creamy, even burnt, comes from our sense of smell. So taking our time to fully taste food we are eating means that we will eat less and feel fuller for longer. That's because our brain, which tells us when we're full, not our stomach. The longer we spend eating, the more time those signals have to reach our brain and tell us we're full, so we eat less. And because we're digesting it for longer, we feel fuller. So this activity gets children to taste food using their senses. So even for those children who don't like putting new foods or different foods in their mouth, can take part in this through smell and look and feel, and even listening to how a food sounds. So we talked about the different colours of food in terms of grapes, but actually you can apply this to the way that foods are prepared. So for example, carrots is a really easy one to do. You can eat them raw, but you can chop them up into coins, into batons, or you can grate it. They'll all taste different, but then you can cook it. So you could steam it, boil it, roast it. So again, they'll taste different. So just saying you don't like carrots could be that you don't like the way those carrots are cooked or even chopped up. So we're starting to connect different principles of food together. So the home activity for this one is all about Food I Spy, looking at what food they've got at home and determine whether that would create a happy, balanced meal, or whether it's really carbohydrate heavy or dairy heavy or fruit and vegetable heavy, which would be great. You could do this in your HAF provision, looking in the cupboards and in the fridge of what you've got to provide. And so the cooking activity for this is looking at creating kebabs, and these could be cooked or raw. So we've tried to include both cooking and non-cooking activities for those provisions who don't always have kitchen facilities or heat to be able to cook on. And you'll notice in here, we've already got the rainbow colours in that one as well. So again, connecting those opportunities. So our third session is all about portions and potions. So a healthy, balanced diet means not only eating the right types of food and drink, but also eating them in the right amount. How much a child needs will vary with age and body size and how active they are. In 2011, there were 43 million children globally who were overweight. That was an increase of 54% from 1990. Obesity costs the NHS £4.2 billion a year. And in the UK, 1 in 5 children leaves primary school obese. As the rates of overweight and obese children has increased over the last several decades, so too have portion sizes. So in places like restaurants and supermarkets and even at home, suggesting that those larger portion sizes are having a major role to play in that problem. So here we want to make sure that parents understand how much children should be eating, and also how perceived healthy options are not always as healthy as we think, especially with our drinks. So did you know that sugary drinks account for around 30% of a 4 to 10-year-old's daily sugar intake? So that's quite a lot, and that's just in drinks. So here we're looking at how to measure portions really simply using our hand, and our hand is relative in size to our body mass, and that makes that portion size correct for us. And so they can take this home and apply it to their food. You can get them to measure out food for their lunch or their dinner at HAF, or give them it to take home and do at home. So the home learning activity looks at that sugar concept and looks at how much sugar there is in our drinks. You'll be absolutely shocked to find out how much sugar is in drinks, and actually how much we should have on a daily basis. So that just gets you to think about those hidden extras that maybe we're intaking, not through drinks, but through snacks as well. So it's no surprise that our cook along activity is drink related. So we're looking at fruit juice potions and fresh fruit smoothies. So again, looking at combining flavors, making it a sensory experience, but also trying new things and combining things together. So session 4 is all about you are what you eat. So this looks at the processes of food. So not all processed foods are unhealthy. Some foods need to be processed to make them safe, like milk, which needs to be pasteurized. However, some processed foods can contain high levels of salt, sugar, and fat. In 1980, 58% of all household food was from fresh ingredients, compared to only 26%, which was processed. But if we skip forward to 2000, that's all changed. We now only have 28% of our food is fresh, compared to 44%, which is processed. And in the UK, around 1 in 5 people's diet is 80% processed foods. So it's no wonder that that is contributing to the obesity issue that we spoke about earlier. So we want to try and encourage as many families as possible to cook from scratch as much as possible and reduce the need for ultra processed foods. We know that these are often used for quickness and ease, but if we can change 50% or even 30% of habits, that would be a massive impact. So this activity is all about looking at the ingredients added to our foods. So in the activity card, we use the example of a tomato. So as a whole raw food, that's just one ingredient. If we made pasta sauce with that tomato, we would probably use about 5 ingredients. But in a jar of pasta sauce that has to be kept on the shelf for long periods of time, there's 16 different ingredients in there. And then if we take that sauce and add it to a pizza, there's probably double the amount of ingredients that we would naturally use in our kitchens. So 26 ingredients, and a lot of those are going to be things like fats and salts and sugars that actually we just do not need in our diets. The home learning activity that links to this is all around food labels. So getting families and children to understand what they actually mean, what to look out for, what to try and avoid. And actually, if you're making food from scratch, probably most of these don't exist and are not needed. So we stick with the pizza theme and we're looking at cooked and non-cooked pizzas. So a really nice one for you to be adding to lunch boxes as a non-cooked pizza. Experimenting with different flavors and different techniques. So session 5 is all about growing your own foods. So local and seasonal food is definitely the way to go. Local is deemed anything which is grown within 100 to 150 miles. When food is not sourced locally, it's either grown in a hothouse or shipped in from other parts of the world. And it's estimated that on average, the fresh food on our plates travels around 1,500 miles to get there. Out of season crops need to be transported, harvested earlier, refrigerated for long periods of time so they don't rot during transportation. But consequently, that produce may not ripen as effectively, or we lose levels of flavour and moisture and nutrition. But it also contributes towards 10% of our carbon emissions each year. So what better way to eat locally and seasonally than growing your own? So this can be done more effectively and cheaply than you may realise. So what we want children to do is look at the foods in their houses or in your cupboards at HAF and see what country those foods have been grown in or have been shipped in from and plot those on the map. Could they have come from somewhere more locally? Could they have even been grown themselves? So really thinking about that impact of our food. When we go to the home learning activity, we're looking at it from a different angle. So we're looking at it from a food waste challenge. So this explores what foods are being thrown away at home so we can reduce it either with effective shopping habits, portion control, or alternative cooking methods. So cooking in batch and freezing, or using leftovers to create stews and casseroles and soups. By reducing down our food waste and the food that's wasted at home, we're also going to be cutting down on the amount of money we spend on food. So that's a double whammy. But these are what we call magic foods. So when there's no cooking activity with this, instead we've replaced it with a growing activity. But these magic foods can be regrown from their own food waste. So it doesn't matter how big a space you've got, whether you've just got a windowsill or you've got some outdoor space, you can grow things indoors and outdoors, depending on what it is, and in very little space. So really nice hands-on activity for you to use also on your HAF provision. So our next session is all about lunch boxes. So we often get asked about the difference between packed lunches and school meals. and the perception is that school meals are more expensive, so parents opt for the alternative. But research from the University of Leeds has shown us that just 1.6% of primary packed lunches meet the national nutritional standards set for school meals. Now, that's absolutely shocking. If that was a school delivering that, then obviously people would be very upset and would have something to say. Another study by NetMums has been taking place over the last few years and has been looking at the costs of providing lunches at school. So in 2018, it was around £2 per day for a school meal compared to £3 per day for a packed lunch. In 2020, that rose to just over £3.50 a day. And in 2022, school meals cost just over around £2, depending on where you are. A school packed lunch was over £4 per day. That makes packed lunches 105% more expensive than school meals. And especially when school meals are universally free at Key Stage 1, there is absolutely no need for any parent to be spending that money on packed lunches. So we want children and parents to reflect on what they're putting in their lunch boxes and consider all the things we've spoken about. So portion sizes, processed foods, food labels, and the Eat Well guide. But transferring that Eat Well guide into a lunchbox can be tricky for people to visualise. So we've created that so that your young people can look at that lunchbox and tell you what they put in it on a day-to-day basis. They can look at that and then decide whether there's just too many carbohydrates, there's no fruit and veg, or it's not very balanced, and see what swaps they can make to create that more balanced and healthier lunchbox. So the home learning task looks at that in a meal. So getting the young person or the child to create their own meal, come up with a shopping list of ingredients, how much that would cost to create. And then once they've done that, identifying what they liked about the meal, what would they choose differently? Equally, does it meet the Eat Well guide? Was there a little bit of everything in there? Could they work out how much sugar and fat and things that they added to create that meal and how much that would cost in total? So really bringing that together and getting them to look at that in a life skill type of way. So the cooking activities for our families are overnight oats, flapjacks, rhubarb and custard crunch, and granola bars. So these are all things that can be added to a packed lunch, or they can be used for breakfast items or nice healthy snacks in between meals. So our 7th session is all about snacks for teeth. So tooth decay in England is among young people and children is a massive growing concern. So Public Health England advised that around 23%, so about a quarter of 5-year-olds have had dental decay, and there's little to no progress being made in that area. Tooth decay is almost entirely preventable, yet it remains the #1 reason for childhood hospital admissions for general anaesthesia in the UK, with tooth extractions for under 5s costing the NHS £7.8 million, and for under 19s £50.5 million. It also contributes to the loss of up to 15 days of missed education per child in dental appointments and hospital appointments and pain. So it's really, really important that we look at this with our young people. So our activity card looks at different foods that are really good for our teeth and foods that are not quite so good for our teeth. And these are really surprising when we start to look at these and drill down. So our activity card that we've got shows an unhealthy mouth and a healthy mouth. So you can identify the different foods and put them onto the teeth to show what is good and what is bad. The home learning activity looks at the cost of eating healthily. So it's often perceived that healthy food is more expensive than unhealthy food, which is kind of right and wrong. So healthy raw ingredients are cheaper than unhealthy food. However, if you want something that's pre-made, then that is very much more expensive than a pre-made unhealthy version. So this is about looking at that cost versus nutrition, what's good for our teeth and what's not, and so how we can look at the difference between the two as to what is cost effective, but even more important, what is most nutritional. So looking at a meal and the pre-made version compared to the homemade version. And our cooking activity with families looks at things like edible trees, popcorn, frozen yogurt snowmen, and Santa hats. These are all lovely activities if you're running HAF over the winter and festive season. Our next session is all about the seasons of food. So eating with the seasons provides the body with the nutrition it needs in the winter. We're provided with high vitamin C, which supports the body to fight coughs and colds. And winter vegetables are perfect for making warm and nourishing meals like soups, stews, and casseroles. On the other hand, summer foods such as stone fruits provide us with extra beta carotenes and other carotenes that help protect us against sun damage. They also provide more sweetness for an energizing summer, so that natural sugar that we absolutely do need. Food, which is in season and fresh and local, has the highest nutritional value and the best taste. It also makes it much cheaper. So trying to buy those strawberries in the winter, they're going to cost you a lot more money and they're not really going to have any nutritional value at all. So our activity card allows you to explore and understand what foods grow at what times of the year and the benefits these have. So this could be linked to a visit to a farm or a local producer of food. And then the children can identify the different foods that grow and are produced at the different times of season across the year. And even when things are being planted, ready to be harvested in that season. Our home learning activity explores where food comes from. So we're not talking about geographically in the world where it comes from, but how it's grown. So whether it comes underground, on trees, from animals. So recently when I was teaching in a school, a child told me that potatoes grow on trees and raisins come from Coca-Cola. So it just proved that actually children don't know these things. They're not necessarily being taught them. So we can't assume that they do know or even that their families know. So the cooking activities for our families are brilliant for this time of the year because they're quite wintry for this seasonal one. So we've got toasted pumpkin seeds, we've got seasonal soup, we've got campfire bread, we've got apple crisps, which are really good for this time of the year when we're snacking a bit more over the Christmas and festive period. Now, this covers almost all the skills across the different sections, and you'll have seen these popping up across the presentation. And I'm going to come back to these in a minute and explain why they're there and how you can use those in what you're delivering. And our final session is all about food for fuel. So it's recommended that children are active for at least 60 minutes per day. But we know that just 23% of boys and 20% of girls are meeting this recommendation. That's despite 93% of children saying they like being active, they like taking part in activities with their friends and activities that they like. But our diets are getting in the way of taking part in physical activities and children's willingness to want to try new things, even though the children in the survey said it made them feel happier, more sociable, and more confident. So our activity card for this one explores this some further with food examples, which can be applied to how much energy that food's going to give us. So even before we do any physical activity, what are we going to gain from eating those foods? So the activity card has got all these different energy levels and how long it would last for. So from the shortest amount of burst of energy to the longest lasting energy. and then it's got some foods along the top, so the children can match them up and see which one is going to give them the most energy the longest. The home learning activity expands this a little bit further. So we've got a menu, a table here for them to fill out across a week, detailing what they're eating and also what physical activity they're taking part in. And then we've got some examples of the kinds of foods they might eat and how much physical activity they might need to do to work off that piece of food. So then they can start to make real conscious decisions about, am I doing a lot of exercise today? Do I need that extra energy? Yes or no, as to whether that's something they should eat, or maybe they should go for a healthier option as a snack instead. And our cooking for this is sweet potato fries and inside out meat-free burgers. So something a little bit different in there for your children to take part in. So in addition to all those resources and the videos where parents can do the cook-alongs with the recipe cards from their own houses, we've also put together some further resources. Now, bearing in mind, we created resources for schools originally. All those are also available completely for free off the website for you to download. So if you want more information or more in depth, or just some different activities and resources, then take a look at those as well, because they're all just as clickable as the ones that have been specially dedicated to HAF. So we're not stopping there. We want to give you a little bit more. So remember those icons about the different cooking activities. Well, we've created a skills passport for you to be able to track kitchen skills that are being learned within your setting. And you can print these off and give them to the children to even take home and track those activities at home as well. We've also got guidance on the various Eat Well guides. So that includes the vegetarian, the vegan, and the new plant-based one. So you should be able to cater for all of your children's needs. And then all these recipe cards exist as an individual recipe, but we've also collated them all into one big recipe book, which can be downloaded and used on a phone, or you can print them off, but they are quite weighty. There's about 42 pages, I think, in there. So have a look before you print those off for your families. Not all of the videos are related to the recipe book. So you've got cooking videos for each of the 9 different areas, but there's extra recipes in this recipe book as well. And I'll explain why that is now. So we were asked to create HAF on the menu. So this is designed to support you, the practitioners, with menu options and ideas which are affordable, easy, and compliant with the school food standards. So we've looked at both hot and cold, because we know you don't always have those facilities. And you'll notice we've also included outdoor cooking for those who offer outdoor learning or forest school style sessions. So all these recipes are also included in that recipe book. Each one of these has its own page on the website. So this is the breakfast one. It exists for lunch and dinner just the same. I'm just going to share this one with you, but when you download the PDF, it will download them all at the same time. So it will tell you what page to go to in the recipe book, so where you can find the recipe and the how to make that. But we've put the ingredients here for you as well to make it easier for shopping lists. We've also put the costs of those ingredients. Now, that will fluctuate and change. We all know that food costs are going up. So these costs are based back in March this year. So we would expect them to have gone up a little bit. So please bear that in mind and check. We've also put on there the final column, which is type. So whether that's a big batch cook that you're going to prepare and cook in advance for all of the children, whether it's a quick and simple, easy make, which you can do on the premises, whether it's a hands-on opportunity for children to get involved in that food preparation. So we've tried to make that a lot easier for you and make it a bit more prescriptive. So I just wanted to quickly mention another resource that we've got with a different hat on. So this is our Nature Schools resources from PECT. And we've got over 150 different activities you can use, all your families can use to engage with nature. So there's crafts, there's ID sheets, there's hunts, so many different things that I can't mention them all. None of these activities should cost you any money. They all use materials you would find in nature or things that you would throw away in your recycling or stuff you would just naturally have anyway. So they come organised in different seasons. We have a core set of activities as well. There's certificates you can award. There's this nature school diary you can download. And all the activities come with a how-to guide and often more than one option of how to do that. So for example, we've got a bird feeder activity on there. I think we've got about 6 different ways of making a bird feeder, so that you can utilize the materials that you've got, or you can differentiate it depending on what the age range of the children are. So I wanted to leave you with some further support that you can offer families that you're working with, and some of these might also come in handy for yourselves. So hopefully you've heard of them before, but if not, then we're making you aware of them today. So the first one is the NHS Food Scanner app. So this can help families to make better choices by scanning the food at the point of purchase to find out whether it's healthy or not. And it will also offer an alternative which is healthy. So brilliant for those lunchbox ideas, for things you think might be healthy, but you're not quite sure. Simply Veg is packed full of tips, hacks, advice and giveaways to make it as easy as possible to serve affordable veg-packed meals. And then the Healthy Families Nutrition and Physical Activity Directory has loads of current information of activities and support happening in the local area for families to be able to access. So really worth knowing what's going on. So I just want to remind you of the links of where you can download all these resources. My email address is at the bottom in red. So if you do think, oh, I wish I'd have asked that, then please feel free to email me at any time and ask any questions. We're there and available to help. If you would like help in delivering some of your HAF provision and you've got some funding to do that, then we are more than happy to come along and assist you, and we can talk to you on an individual basis. And if you need any further training or any further support around any of the things that I've spoken about today, then please do get in touch. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that's been really helpful for you. And I hope your children enjoy all the activities and all the recipes we've got on offer.